topic that we're going to discuss in today's session is about the Agile Manifesto. The Manifesto for Agile Software Development, more commonly known as the Agile Manifesto, was created in 2001 by a group of 17 like-minded people who came together at the Snowbird Retreat outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, to come up with a solution to the software development problems they had seen all through their careers. After days of discussion, they agreed on a core set of ideas and principles, and also on the name Agile. They bundled them into a single document, which started a shift in thinking across the software development world. The Agile Manifesto contains four simple values. Here's the entire manifesto that we're going to discuss. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, which is the first value. Working software over comprehensive documentation, the second value. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation, third value. And responding to change over following a plan. Understanding and effectively working with Agile starts with understanding these values. So let us look in detail about each of these values. The first value, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. People can go wrong when they blindly follow a process. A great tool can sometimes help you do the wrong thing faster. The software world is full of great practices. Not all of them are appropriate for every project and every situation. However, it's universally important to understand the people on the team, how they work together, and how each person's work impacts everyone else. This is an especially useful idea for anyone who needs to improve the way his or her team works. That's why Agile teams value individuals and interactions over processes or tools. Because it's not enough to have the correct process or best practice. If the people who need to use a tool or a process don't buy into it, it will fall by the wayside, or even worse, people will follow the letter of process, even if it leads to incoherent results. Before you are able to implement a process, even if it's logically making a lot of sense or is rationally the right thing to do, you need to sell it to people who are working with you. If people don't get why you're doing what you're doing, all they'll see is that you're asking for an arbitrary change. That's why it's always, in every situation, important to recognize that you're working with a group of people. Each of these people has his or her own motivations, ideas, and preferences. There are many agile practices that support this principle across a lot of different ways of thinking about agile. That's why you'll see practices that support individuals and interactions, like daily stand up meetings, retrospectives, and user stories too. The stories themselves are less important than the fact that they can help the team to have conversation about what the story means. The second value is the working software over comprehensive documentation. There are binders full of complete and comprehensive software that can be documented in a software project, and it's often difficult during the heat of the project to predict what's going to be useful in the future and what will gather dust. Because of that, a lot of teams and especially their managers will decide on a comprehensive approach where every little thing must be documented no matter whether or not there's a potential reader for the document. Agile teams value working software over comprehensive documentation. But the term working software may seem vague. After all, what does the word working really mean? To an agile practitioner, working software is a software that adds value to the organization. It could be software that a company sells to make money, or it could be software that people who work at the company use to do their jobs more efficiently. For a project to add value, it needs to deliver or save more money than it costs to build. Value really does come down to money most of the times, even if that's not something the team wants to talk about directly. And the team should emphasize building and delivering working software that delivers value. Documentation is only a means towards that end. Valuing working software over comprehensive documentation does not mean that you should not document. There are many kinds of documents that are really useful for the team, but it's important to keep in mind that the people writing the documentation are often the same people who are writing the software. Documentation that helps them understand the problem, communicate it with the users, and correct problems before they make it in the software is documentation that saves more time and effort than it costs. It often happens to be the kind of documentation, like wireframes or sequence diagrams, that programmers don't mind writing. Concentrating on working software, on the other hand, is a great way to make sure the team keeps on track. When the team is working on documentation that is clearly headed towards working software, it's making a positive contribution to the project. In fact, the team can often take a novel approach to documentation that allows it to be embedded in the software itself. For example, one such agile practice is test driven development, in which the programmers build automated unit tests before they build the software that it tests. These automated tests exist as code that is stored alongside the rest of the code for the software. But it also serves as documentation because it gives developers a record of what the code is supposed to do and of the expected behavior for the individual elements of the software. The third value is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. A lot of people might read contract negotiation and assume that this value only applies to consultants and contractors who work within a contract. Actually, this applies to many teams that work within a single company. When programmers, testers, business owners, and project managers all work on different teams and don't really collaborate towards a single goal of delivering working software, they often treat each other as if they are working on a contract. In many companies, they will explicitly discuss SLAs, that is, service level agreements, between programming teams, between testers and developers, and between teams and their users. This may reduce the risk of getting in trouble with the boss because it makes it easier to point a finger and blame another team for failing to deliver software. But it is highly counterproductive if the goal is to get working software out of the door for the users. A developer who is constantly trying to protect himself will be less able to try to find new ways to collaborate and innovate with the people who need to use the software that is being built. One way agile teams put this value in place is to have a product owner who is a real first class member of the team. She may not be actively developing code, but she does attend meetings, contribute ideas, and most importantly, feel ownership for the final product. Product owners will often use user stories as a way to collaborate with the rest of the team. The fourth value is responding to change over following a plan. There's an old project management saying, plan the work, work the plan. Unfortunately, if you work the wrong plan, you will build the wrong product. That's why teams need to constantly look for changes and to make sure that they respond appropriately when there's a change in what the users need or on how the software needs to be built. If the circumstances change, the project needs a new plan. It's not uncommon for the person or people who build a plan to resist change because it takes work to change a plan. For example, there may have been a lot of effort put into breaking down the work down into packages and estimating each one of them. A change could require a project management to have to redo all of that work, and if he values following a plan over responding to change, he might dig his heels in. This makes a smoother project, but if the change is really needed, it will be much harder to make it later on after the code is more complete. A task board is a good example of a practice that helps a team make the right decisions about responding to changes. Each element of the work is written on an index card and attached to the board. A task board can also be managed with a computer program, but many teams find it more effective to physically put it on a wall because standing in front of a board, talking, gesturing, and moving stories is much richer form of communication than simply talking. The board is set up in a way that anyone can rearrange the order of tasks and is even encouraged to do so. If changes happen, everyone is encouraged to add index cards to the task board rather than having to clear each change through a single project manager hub. This keeps everyone in the loop on changes so the plan doesn't get stale. Now let us discuss the key points of this session. The Agile Manifesto contains common values and ideas that led to effective teams. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools means the team should focus on the people on the team and how they communicate first, and the tools and practices that they use second. Working software over comprehensive documentation means that delivering software that does what users need is more important than delivering a specification that describes it. Working software means software that delivers value to the company. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation means treating everyone like they are on the same team. Many effective agile teams treat the product owner as a member of the project team to collaborate with rather than a client or customer to negotiate with. Responding to change over following a plan means recognizing that plans become inaccurate and it's more important to deliver the software than it is to work the plan. A task board is an agile planning tool in which user stories are attached to a board and categorized into columns based on their status in the current project or iteration.